Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we tear into complex strategic documents and training materials to give you the actionable knowledge you need to stay ahead.
Today, we're tackling what is, I think, the most fundamental step in any kind of strategic planning.
Absolutely. We are decoding the external environment. This is the stuff that can make or break a product portfolio, and it's often the most challenging part.
It really is. Our source for this deep dive comes from a module called Know Your Market Situation. And it's not just some, preliminary step.
Yeah.
It's the absolute foundation. Our mission today is to get past the textbook definitions and really pull out the strategic insights you need to navigate these dynamics.
And the most humbling part of this, for me at least, is the core assumption,
Right.
which is that all of these external factors, customer segments, channels, competitors, these big macro trends, they're all categorized as opportunities and threats that we can't really influence.
Exactly. They're the weather. You can't stop a hurricane.
You can't stop the storm, right?
But you can decide whether to reinforce your roof or, build a stronger foundation. The only thing you can actually change is your own position, your own strategic response to that storm.
So if a new trade regulation just shuts down a major market, the goal isn't to fight the law.
No, you can't. The goal is to adapt your product line or find a new distribution channel, and fast.
That sets a very challenging tone. We're talking massive external forces and pretty limited internal control. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Starting with what feels like the biggest source of confusion for so many companies. The sheer, overwhelming complexity of a global customer base. How do you even start to impose some kind of order on that chaos?
You start by accepting you can't catalog all of it. I mean, the world is in constant flux. The point of this exercise isn't data collection for its own sake.
It's not an encyclopedia.
No, it's about simplification. It's about finding patterns that let you make smart choices about where to put your limited resources.
Okay, so let's lay out the roadmap for everyone listening. We're going to hit 5 key external areas today. First, we'll simplify that customer base through segmentation. Then we'll figure out the size of the prize with market potential.
After that, we map the path to the customer through channels.
And then we zoom out to the big picture with macro trends using the PIST framework. And finally, we get into the immediate threats in the competitive landscape.
It's a full journey from the micro customer need to the macro global trend.
Let's dive in.
So that overwhelm factor you mentioned, it's a real thing. It's this paralysis you feel when you look at the needs of every single potential buyer on the planet.
It's an impossible task. You can't serve everyone.
You can't. And that's why segmentation isn't just a classification exercise. It is fundamentally a resource management tool.
And resources are always limited, so simplification it's survival.
It is. You're trying to find groups of customers who share not just common needs, but more importantly, common behaviors.
Okay, why is behavior the critical word there? Why not just group them by, say, industry?
Because without that behavioral or needs-based grouping, your strategy has no focus. If you just segment by mining or automotive, you might be lumping together customers who need completely different things.
So you could have one company in the mining segment that's all about cutting-edge digital tech and another that just wants the cheapest, most reliable pump.
Exactly. And you can't serve them both efficiently with the same product, the same sales team, or the same price. It's a total resource drain.
So the goal isn't just grouping. It's about creating genuinely unique segments. If each segment is truly distinct, then the offering you create for it has to be distinct too.
That's the acid test. If 2 of your segments can be served with the exact same offering, then they're not 2 segments.
They're just one.
They're one. This is how you maximize the efficiency of your R&D, your sales, your marketing, all of your limited resources.
The source material had this fantastic warning that I think people ignore all the time. It said, do not just segment by industry out of habit.
It's such a common trap.
We've all seen it, the oil and gas segment, the utility segment, but that's just a description of what they do. It's not what they need from you.
And that habit is a massive strategic blind spot. If your automotive segment is, say, 80% price hunters and your power gen segment is also 80% price hunters,
then your real segment is price hunter, not automotive.
Precisely. Your strategy should be built around that behavior. Otherwise, you're probably applying the wrong service level or the wrong cost model based on some outdated industry label.
You're moving from just describing your customers to actually predicting their behavior.
And that's where the service example in the source material really shines. It splits customer needs into 2 buckets: common needs and specific needs.
The common needs, those are the table stakes, right? High reliability, fast fixes, a fair price. If you don't have these, You're not even in the game.
You're out before you even start. But the thing is, your top competitors probably meet those common needs too.
So the real battleground, the place you can actually win, is in meeting those specific needs. This is where you differentiate.
Exactly. And the source identified 4 key segments based on these specific needs.
Okay, let's start with the one that gives everyone a headache, the price hunter. Their specific need is, well, price, an intense sensitivity to price and fairness.
And this isn't just a preference, it dictates your entire operational model for serving them. For a price hunter, you have to have the absolute lowest cost to serve.
So that means standardized products, not a lot of customization, maybe a self-service online portal.
All of that. And you probably reach them through low-cost distributors. If you send your top highest paid sales engineer to a price hunter account,
You've already lost money on the deal before it's even signed.
you've lost all your margin. Now, contrast that with the complete opposite, the relationship-oriented segment.
This customer isn't buying a product, they're buying a future. They want a partnership, they want trust, long-term investment.
Yes. The source even mentions co-developing the next generation of products with them. Think about the cost of that.
It's massive.
Yeah.
You're talking about dedicated engineering time, R&D resources, shared risk.
The strategic insight here is that you cannot, under any circumstances, serve this segment with the same low-cost model you use for the price hunter. The pricing has to reflect the immense value and investment of that partnership.
And if you try to use the same margin structure for both, you either massively overserve the price hunter and lose money.
Or you totally underserve the relationship client by not giving them the engineering support they need, and you lose their trust.
And probably the account. Okay, what about the other two? We have the transparency seeker.
Their specific need is all about speed and information. They want frictionless bureaucracy.
So they're not necessarily looking for the absolute lowest price or a deep strategic partnership. They just want things to be easy.
Incredibly easy. Real-time order tracking, instant quotes, quick administrative responses. For this segment, data and speed are the value proposition. A slow, clunky process is a bigger threat to the relationship than a slightly higher price.
Which is a clear signal for where to invest. For them, you invest in digital tools and process automation.
Right. And finally, you have the base segment, sometimes called the convenience seeker, or just the group with no major additional specific needs.
They're the core. The common needs are enough for them.
They're your efficient baseline. They want solid products, reliable service, a competitive price, but they don't need all the expensive bells and whistles. Winning their business is all about operational excellence.
So once we have these distinct, actionable segments, the next question is, are they actually any good?
Right. Are they worth pursuing? Is the segment attractive enough to be profitable in the long run?
And for that, we turn to a classic, Michael Porter's 5 Forces.
And remember, in this context, attractiveness has a very specific definition.
Profitability.
It's all about profitability. Porter's model helps us see past our own sales numbers and look at the underlying structure of the segment itself.
The central force, the one we all feel every day, is the competitive rivalry of the industry, the day-to-day fight for market share.
And that rivalry is shaped by the 4 other forces. Let's take them one by one. First, the bargaining power of suppliers.
So if you depend on one company for a critical component, and they're the only ones who make it,
They have all the power. They can raise prices, delay shipments, change the terms, and it directly eats into your gross margin. It makes the entire segment less profitable for you.
which forces you to spend money just to mitigate that risk, like finding a second source or even trying to develop a substitute yourself.
Then you have the flip side, the bargaining power of customers. We just talked about the price hunter.
Right. If, say, 3 big companies buy 80% of everything sold in a segment, they can play all the suppliers off each other.
They can demand lower prices, more service, better terms. Strong, consolidated customers will always squeeze the profitability of a segment. Your only defense is to create something so unique they can't get it anywhere else.
Make the switching cost too high.
Exactly. Next is the threat of substitute products. And this is a tricky one.
People often confuse this with a direct competitor. It's not about rival X launching a similar product.
No, it's about a completely different technology that solves the same underlying customer problem. It's about a software service that completely eliminates the need for the physical hardware you sell.
Or fiber optic cable replacing traditional copper wiring.
Yeah.
If that happens, the attractiveness of the copper wire segment just plummets.
It goes to zero. You have to be watching adjacent industries for these kinds of existential threats.
And the final force, the threat of new entrants. Basically, how easy is it for someone new to jump into this market and compete?
Are the barriers to entry high or low? If it's cheap and easy for a startup to get going, you can bet that the segment will get crowded very quickly.
And more competition means more pressure on prices.
And lower profitability for everyone. But if a segment requires, say, $1 billion in specialized factories and years of regulatory approvals, the threat of new entrants is very low. That protects the profits for the companies already in the game.
So the simple rule is, the stronger these forces are combined, the less profitable the segment is and the less attractive it is for you to invest in.
That's the structural reality. But here's the key takeaway for anyone listening. Just because an entire industry has low average profitability doesn't mean your company is doomed.
Okay.
A really strong differentiated product and a great business model, the kind of thing we were just talking about with segmentation, can let you earn high profits even in a structurally tough industry.
You can't change the weather, but you can build a much better boat.
That's a perfect analogy. You change your position relative to the forces.
Okay, so once we know a segment is attractive, or at least one we can navigate, we need to know if it's big enough to be worth it. That takes us from the qualitative to the quantitative.
We're heading into the numbers game, market valuation.
And this isn't just about spreadsheets. It's about having crystal clear definitions so that everyone in the company is speaking the same language.
Absolutely. You have to value markets continuously to set realistic goals. It starts with the biggest possible number.
Yeah.
The total market.
This is the theoretical max, right?
Yeah.
The total investment in a market that matches what your business unit does.
It's the whole universe.
Yeah.
But right away, you have to subtract a big chunk. The non-available market.
This is the part of that universe that's just off limits. You can't get to it because of some external restriction.
Things like government regulations, trade sanctions, maybe you don't have a required local license, or you just don't have a product that meets a specific regional standard.
So why even track that number? If you can't touch it, why waste time on it?
That's a great question. You track it because it focuses your resources. It stops your team from chasing ghosts. But more importantly, those external factors can change.
A trade regulation gets listed.
And suddenly, that non-available market becomes a huge untapped opportunity. It's the potential you have waiting on the sidelines.
I see. Okay, so you subtract that, and what's left is the available market. This is the real sandbox you can play in.
This is your true addressable market. This is the number that defines your real potential. But even within that, you're not going to go after everything.
Which brings us to the non-offered market. The slice of the available pie that you either choose not to bid on, or maybe you don't even know it exists.
And the reasons for this are really diagnostic. Choosing not to bid on a low-margin, high-risk project. That can be a smart strategic decision. Selective bidding.
But the other reasons point to problems.
They do. If you didn't even know a project existed, that's a failure of market intelligence. If a customer is locked into a competitor with a frame agreement, well, that's a different kind of challenge. Tracking this number tells you how much you're leaving on the table due to blind spots.
So what's left after all those subtractions is the offered market, the actual pool of business you competed for in a given year.
And having these precise definitions lets us calculate performance in a much more intelligent way.
We need two key metrics, hit rate and market share. Let's start with hit rate.
Hit rate is your total orders divided by that offered market. It's a measure of how effective you are when you actually decide to compete. It's about bidding efficiency.
So a high hit rate looks great. It means you're winning most of the deals you go after.
It does look great, but it can be a trap. Let me ask you, what if your hit rate is, say, 80%, but your offered market is tiny compared to your available market? What does that tell you?
It tells me I'm probably playing it way too safe. I'm only bidding on the sure things, the easy wins with customers I already know.
Exactly. It signals a dangerously conservative strategy. It suggests there's a massive non-offered market out there that you're too afraid to even try for. You're failing to challenge the status quo.
So you need the other metric for balance, market share.
Right. Market share is your total orders divided by the available market. This tells you how much of the entire accessible pie you're actually capturing.
So even if my hit rate is high, if my market share is flat or falling, it means my competitors are growing faster and capturing more of the overall opportunity.
That's the strategic trade-off. Do you want the comfort of a high hit rate, which is about operational efficiency, or do you want the aggressive growth of a higher market share? A good strategy has to balance both.
Let's make this concrete with the example from the source material. the 2014 to 2020 projection.
A classic strategic planning cycle, right? A 5 or 6 year horizon.
And the data showed the total market was projected to grow from about 64 units to over 80 units in that time. That's just the natural growth of the market.
That's the wave. If you just maintain your current market share, you ride that wave. You grow, but you don't actually get any stronger relative to your competitors.
Strategic success is about growing faster than the market. It's about gaining share.
And to do that, you have to actively challenge those growth assumptions. You have to find the hidden pockets of opportunity that the standard forecast misses.
And how do you actually do that? How do you make that happen?
It comes right back to the product portfolio. You launch key initiatives, maybe it's a new pricing model or a strategic partnership, but most importantly, you improve your products to serve those unmet needs we found in segmentation.
So you develop a product that's perfect for the transparency seeker segment, and you can steal share without getting into a price war in the price hunter segment.
That is exactly how you grow faster than the market.
Okay, so we understand the customer and we've sized the prize. Now we need to figure out how to actually get the product to them. We need to talk about channels.
The complex path from your factory to the end user. And understanding this is vital because each intermediary in that channel has different needs.
They're not all the same. A system integrator who is building your product into a massive, complex solution needs very different support than a simple low-price distributor.
Totally different. The integrator needs deep technical specs, training, maybe even engineering support. The distributor just wants a simple price list and fast inventory turnover.
And if you treat them the same, if you give the distributor complex manuals they don't want, or you don't give the integrator the technical support they need,
You create friction. You create cost. You have to customize your support for each channel to be profitable.
but it goes beyond just support, right? You have to analyze the volume and the profitability of each channel.
You do. This is where you can take strategic action to actively steer your products toward the channels that are best for your business.
So if channel A is super high volume, but it requires so much customization and support that the margin is terrible,
And channel B is lower volume, but it's for a standard product that gives you 30% higher margins.
then you have to find ways to incentivize your sales team to push product through channel B. You steer the portfolio.
Or you redesign the product for channel A to make it simpler and more profitable, but you have to take action based on that analysis.
Now, this is where channel mapping often uncovers a really painful internal problem.
Oh yeah, the risk of your own channels competing against each other.
Self-cannibalization. Your own direct sales team, your front-end sales reps, are fighting for the same deals as your external partners, like a low-price distributor.
It's a structural conflict. Your internal sales team has high overheads, they're providing a full-service, high-value solution, and they need high margins to justify their existence.
Meanwhile, the distributor has low overheads, and their whole business model is based on volume and aggressive pricing.
So if they're both selling the exact same product to the exact same customer, the distributor will almost always win on price.
And your internal sales team gets completely demoralized. They feel like the company's undercutting them. This has to be addressed in the product strategy.
It's critical. The most common solution is product partitioning. You create clear rules of engagement.
So the low-price distributor can only sell a specific range of simplified high-volume products.
And the complex, integrated, high-margin solutions are reserved exclusively for the direct sales force and maybe your top-tier system integrators. You have to create swim lanes to prevent that conflict.
The source data gave a great example of this flow. The end customer split was about 35–40% industries and 45–50% utilities.
And the channels were split between direct sales from the company's own team and indirect sales through those key intermediaries.
System integrators, low-price distributors, and EPCs, the engineering, procurement, and construction firms.
Let's pause on the EPCs because they are a unique and powerful channel.
They're not just a distributor. What's their strategic role?
EPCs are the ultimate gatekeepers for huge projects. When a utility wants to build a new power plant, they hire an EPC to design it, procure all the equipment, and build it.
So the EPC writes the technical specifications.
They decide which brands are approved, which products meet the spec. If the EPC doesn't specify your product in the design phase, you are out of the running. The end customer might never even know you exist.
So winning with an EPC means getting your product designed into a massive project years before they even break ground.
That's why it's so strategic. Now, the historical data in the source was fascinating. It showed the share of low-price distributors growing from 39% in 2009 to 42% by 2015.
A 3% shift doesn't sound like a lot, but in a massive market, that is a huge signal.
It's a seismic shift. It tells you the market is fundamentally moving towards commoditization and higher price sensitivity.
The strategic implication is what?
It's a mandate to reevaluate your entire portfolio for simplification. If more and more volume is moving through these low-touch, low-price channels, then your complex, high-support products are going to become unprofitable.
So product management has to proactively design simpler, more modular products that can compete in that channel.
Even if it means cannibalizing some features from your high-end products, you have to follow the market or the market will leave you behind.
Okay, so from the customer and the channel, let's zoom all the way out. Let's look at the big long-term forces that shape everything.
The megatrends. These are the tectonic shifts that define the next decade or two.
And understanding these is about tapping into huge opportunities, but also about avoiding disastrously wrong investments.
The urbanization example from the source is just staggering. In China, 52% of the population lived in cities in 2012. The projection for 2035 is 70%.
70%. That's not just a trend, that's a complete reshaping of a society and an economy. The demand for new infrastructure is almost unimaginable.
The numbers are mind-boggling. They're talking about building 20,000 to 50,000 new skyscrapers, investing in transit systems for 170 different cities.
For a company that makes anything related to infrastructure, power grids, building automation, transportation, this is a multi-decade gold rush.
It is, but you have to be planning for it now. What kind of smart grid technology will be needed to power those dense cities in 2035? If you don't have a clear strategy to address these opportunities today, the window will close. Someone else will get their technology written into the national standards.
To structure these big forces, we use the PKS framework: political, economical, social, and technological.
PEST is all about that long-term horizon. These aren't things that will affect next quarter's sales. These are the factors that will define your market in 10 years. They are the ultimate inputs for your long-range product strategy.
They tell you which product lines need massive R&D investment and which ones maybe need to be put into harvest mode.
Let's break them down. Political aspects are often the most sudden and disruptive.
The source used the example of new environmental laws. A government could just ban a material you use, material X. That forces a complete redesign.
It does. But that's also a huge opportunity.
How so?
Because if material X is banned, all of your competitors have to redesign too. The company that reacts the fastest, or even better, anticipated the law.
They can capture a ton of market share from the slower ones. They can set the new standard.
Exactly. Another great political example was Germany deciding to close all its nuclear power plants by 2022.
On the surface, that's a direct threat. A whole market segment for nuclear infrastructure just vanishes.
But look at the second-order effect. You're closing down a massive source of stable baseline power. That energy has to be replaced.
And it's being replaced mostly with renewables like solar and wind, which are intermittent.
Which means you need massive, forced investments in completely new infrastructure. You need a smarter grid, you need energy storage projects, you need new transmission lines.
So one political decision kills one market, but it creates a massive government-subsidized boom in 3 or 4 other markets.
Product management has to be ready to pivot resources instantly from one to the other.
Okay, then we have economical aspect.
These set the overall financial climate. Things like interest rates, which affect your customers' ability to finance big projects, inflation, which affects your costs and your pricing, a major financial crisis.
Which can be both a threat and an opportunity to, say, acquire a weaker competitor.
Then you have social aspects, which tie back to the megatrends. Population demographics and aging population creates different demands, and of course urbanization, as we discussed.
Finally, technological aspects. This is the realm of constant disruption.
You're tracking new discoveries, the speed of technology transfer, basically the pace of obsolescence for your own products.
If the core technology in your portfolio is about to be replaced by something new,
that's an existential threat. You have to be investing in the new technology now, or you'll wake up one day and find your entire business has been bypassed.
So from the biggest picture, we now zoom into the most immediate tactical battle, the competitive landscape.
And the one constant here is change. This landscape is never, ever static.
While you're busy developing your new product, every single one of your competitors is doing the same thing.
Which is why complacency is so dangerous. You have to know who they are, what their strategy is, their strengths, their weaknesses. You have to know their intent.
The analysis needs to answer some key questions. First, are we the market leader in this segment?
Because the strategy for a leader is very different from the strategy for a challenger. A leader plays defense, sets standards, protects share. A challenger has to be a disruptor, attacking a niche, innovating faster.
And the second question is the forward-looking one. Do we see any new emerging competitors that could become a real threat soon?
This is the strategic blind spot for so many big companies. They're so focused on their traditional large rivals.
They miss the startup in a garage that's about to change the game.
That's the classic story. An emerging competitor starts small, in one local market or one tiny niche, totally under your radar.
But in that niche, they have advantages. They don't have global overhead, they can use modern, cheaper technology, and they can get really, really good at serving that one specific need. They achieve economies of scale.
And once they're stable and profitable in that niche, they can pivot and expand into the mainstream market. And by then, they're faster, they're more agile, and they have a better cost structure. They're a huge threat.
So the source warns you have to analyze and meet these competitors early while they're still in those emerging markets. How does a global giant fight a tiny local player?
It's a strategic challenge. You have to fight local with local. Maybe you develop a stripped-down modular version of your product that you can price aggressively to match them. Maybe you use a local distributor they can't access. You can't wait until they're a national player. You have to meet them on their home turf.
This means the analysis has to be really deep, not just who they are, but what's their strategy? What are they trying to achieve?
And how likely are they to succeed? You have to do scenario planning. If our biggest rival is pouring billions into technology Y and we think that's the future,
We need a countermove now. We either start our own R&D project or maybe look to acquire a smaller company that's already working on it.
and this is where we have to mention integrity. All this competitive intelligence must be gathered ethically and legally. Breaking the rules is a massive risk to your company's reputation and its license to operate.
The visualization in the source material made a great point about this. The competitive landscape is almost never the same everywhere.
It varies hugely by region. A global market share number can hide some serious local weaknesses.
The example compared market share for the big players, ABB, Siemens, and so on, across different regions like Northern Europe, Central Europe, and North America.
And the differences jumped out. A company could be really strong in Europe, but very weak in North America, where a local competitor or the others category dominates.
And that forces a strategic question. Why? If the product is the same, why the disparity?
Is it our channel? Do we not have the right distributors or EPC relationships in North America? Is it a regulatory issue? Or is it just that a local rival has been there for 50 years and has incredible customer loyalty?
And the answer dictates your strategy. In Europe, your strategy is defense and optimizing margins. In North America, it's an aggressive, multi-year plan to build channels and gain share. The data gives you a clear mandate.
So we've really gone through the entire external environment. We started with the chaos of the global customer base and simplified it through segmentation, creating tailored offerings for a price hunter versus a relationship client.
We got the numbers straight, defining the available market and offered market, and using metrics like hit rate to see if we're being too conservative or market share to see if we're actually growing.
We followed the path to market through the channels, realizing we have to customize support for intermediaries like EPCs, and we saw how a small shift towards low-price distributors signals a huge need to simplify our portfolio.
Then we zoomed out. We looked at megatrends like urbanization as massive long-term opportunities and used PS to structure the big political, economic, social, and technological forces around us.
Right, and that constant analysis of all these pieces, segments, markets, channels, trends, and competitors, it's the absolute lifeblood of good product management. It's how you understand your world, spot the threats, seize the opportunities, and ultimately, how you succeed.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating is how these external forces can demand completely contradictory actions. We saw that a megatrend like urbanization in China requires these massive, slow, 20-year strategic
A
investments.
huge long-term commitment.
But at the exact same time, a small emerging competitor who's just gaining some local scale can be an immediate existential threat to your revenue right now.
The long-term versus the short-term, the global versus the local.
So here's the essential strategic question we want to leave you with. How do you successfully balance the massive resource allocation required by a 20-year demographic trend with the immediate short-term necessity of meeting a fast-moving, hyper-local competitor whose survival relies on undercutting your price today? Something to mull over as you transition this knowledge from theory into your own strategic planning.